include young leaders in the advocacy efforts. As well, I'd like to thank Anne of the Jubilee campaign and Set My People Free, the Foundation for Religious Freedom, and the Global Campaign to End Blasphemy and Apostasy Laws for organizing this very important event. To kick off our time together, we will first hear from Commissioner Davie for some opening remarks.
My name is Frederick, and I am a commissioner with the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, or USCIRF. USCIRF is an independent, bipartisan federal agency created by the United States Congress to monitor religious freedom abroad using international standards and to make policy recommendations to the United States government. Advocating for the repeal of blasphemy and apostasy laws is one of USCIRF's top priorities. Across the globe, 84 countries maintain blasphemy laws, and at least 23 countries maintain laws that penalize apostasy. These laws, both on their face and as applied, violate international human rights standards. Most blasphemy laws, even those that impose criminal penalties, are vaguely worded, do not require intent as an element of the crime, and carry unduly harsh penalties for violators. Religious freedom includes the right to express a full range of thoughts and beliefs, including those that others find blasphemous. Laws prohibiting blasphemy, by definition, impede open discourse concerning religion. These laws aim to protect religions, but human rights law protects individual believers, not beliefs. Blasphemy laws empower authorities to sanction citizens who articulate minority or dissenting views, and often support the majority religion in a way that impermissibly discriminates against other groups. I myself advocate on behalf of 2 blasphemy prisoners in Nigeria. Mubarak Bala, president of the Humanist Association of Nigeria, was sentenced in 2020 and held for over a year without charge for peacefully expressing his humanist beliefs on social media. A customary court eventually charged him with multiple counts of creating a public disturbance by posting blasphemous content online and sentenced him to 24 years in prison. He remains in prison as he appeals his sentence. Also in 2020, Nigerian authorities sentenced Muslim gospel singer Yahya Sharif-Aminu to death for alleged blasphemy by implying in a song shared on social media channels that the leader of the Tijaniya Muslim school of thought is higher than the Prophet Muhammad. A higher court has since squashed the death sentence for Yahya, but Yahya remains in prison. These challenges facing.
All right, thank you. And I will now, I'm very honored to introduce to you Mr. Kola Alapinni. He's a defense attorney for now 24-year-old Nigerian prisoner of conscience and gospel singer Yahya Sharif-Aminu, who Commissioner Davie just mentioned, who was sentenced to death for alleged blasphemy by a Sharia court in Kano State in Nigeria. He also led the legal team that got the 10-year sentence of a 16-year-old minor, Omar Farouq Bashir, quashed. Both young lads were sentenced by the same Sharia court, by the same judge in August 2020 in Kano, northern Nigeria. The appellate division of the Kano State High Court quashed both convictions. Whilst Omar Farouq was set free completely, Yahya's death sentence was quashed, but he was remitted back to the Sharia court for a retrial. The legal team has successfully argued the appeal last week at the appellate court, the second highest court in Nigeria, and the case has been reversed for judgment by that court. Mr. Alapinni has an LLB from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and an LLM in International Human Rights Law from the University of Essex in the UK, and was an international scholar at the Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria, South Africa, where he studied human rights and democratization in Africa. He is a member of the Nigerian Bar and he has routinely observed trials at the South African Constitutional Court, the UN International Criminal Tribunal in Arusha, Tanzania. He has engaged in field trips to UN facilities, genocide sites, and the Gacaca Commission in Rwanda. Mr. Alapinni is a founding trustee of the Foundation for Religious Freedom, and in this capacity has raised awareness to the unconstitutional and inhumane application of Sharia law in northern Nigerian states. Their legal team is poised to go all the way to the Supreme Court of Nigeria and
they split it amongst themselves. The French took Benin Republic. We speak known to have varied interests in women. They married a widow, they married a younger person. I said, what do you think is going? You probably would have chosen. And that was what sparked the riot. 250 people were dead in the twinkle of an eye. The Miss World pageant was cancelled, moved it to London to be held there, and Isioma Daniels, the lady who wrote the article, fled because she lives in Denmark now as a political asylum seeker. Okay. Then you have states of this religious thing. The woman is caught with a man. They say, oh, you're committing adultery. Then the woman is arrested. They take her to Sharia court. Sharia court gives a sentence that the woman must be stoned to death. Nothing happens to the man. That's how we practice Sharia law. Everybody completely forgets the man. It's the woman. And that's what happened to Amina Lawal, who in 2003 or 2004 had to be moved away and given, into protection. No one until now has ever had the chance to test whether the Sharia law is consistent with the Constitution of Nigeria or even with the international obligations which were signed under the African Charter and other international instruments. Why? Because when it occurs, if you ever see a mob, I think you might have seen if you saw the videos that went around when Deborah Samuel Yakubu was killed a few months ago, they just come after you, and it's a mob action. It's only the lucky ones who get to court. If you're not lucky, you're going to be burnt or quartered. So Yahya Aminu Sharif, my client, is one of the few lucky ones, and Omar Farouq. If they catch you, you're gone. And Yahya, when he was first picked up, the alleged offense took place in Kano State. He's been moved away from Kano State for 2 years, quietly. Nobody knows because he could be killed in prison. That's how serious this thing is. But when you, in the Western world, when you hear some of these things, it's also, it could sound so very distant because you don't see it actually happen right before your eyes. I've met him, I've seen fear in his face until he got the death sentence overturned. When Omar Farouq first saw me, when we got the death sentence quashed, he ran away. I've never seen him before when we filed the appeal. When it was brought from inside the main prisons into the Controller General's prisons, COVID restrictions, we were all wearing a mask and everything, and I saw Ebuka, my junior, and I see him later when we start showing the video. He backtracked and ran away because he thought they had come to take him away to be killed. Anyway, so Yahya's case became a turning point. We're discussing, during COVID-19, some good came out of COVID-19. Nigerian musicians produced a lot of songs because everybody was locked down and got more creative. And so when you heard Nigeria win Grammy back-to-back 2 years in a row, that's what COVID-19 did to us. Because we were able to sit down and nobody could move, and out of boredom we started doing all of this stuff. So we're talking, just a group of strange bedfellows, some lawyers, some were not, some Christians, some Muslims, some atheists, and we're talking about how religion had taken over Nigeria, and nobody, you couldn't say anything without a backlash on Twitter or anything. How long are we going to keep going on like this? And then we heard about the case of Yahya Aminu Sharif. Remember there was a lockdown. So according to the Sharia court records, I have the treasure trove here. I don't think very often in the Western world you get to see what the Sharia court judgment is and all that. It's in here. I think Dylan was able to see someone I met with USCIRF sometime in May. It was a March, wasn't it, when I came to your office? Yeah. So the Western world doesn't get to see it. First, even if you see it, you can't know what to make of it because it's written in the smattering of Hausa and Arabic. So you have to get it translated. It was, if I can give you some of the dates, the Sharia court record says that the criminal record is number CR C-43/2020. CR means criminal record. And the date of filing was 20th of March 2020. The date of the hearing was 20th of March 2020. He was sentenced on the 10th of August 2020. And the offense was allegedly committed on the 23rd of February 2020. So, when he was also Omar Farouq, the minor, who was 16 at the time when he was convicted, but the press got him out as 13, and the whole world thought he was 13. But when I saw him and I interviewed him, he said he was 16 years old. The court recorded 17 for him because they wanted him to be as close as to the age where he wouldn't be a minor and they can convict him. So these are the sort of shenanigans that happen in the Sharia court. Sharia court is a very discriminatory court because the only Muslim lawyers can appear before it, and you must speak only the Hausa language. And proceedings are conducted in Hausa and a little bit of Arabic language. So I wouldn't be able to appear before the Sharia court because my Hausa is rubbish and I'm not a Muslim. So even though I might know the law has barred me from entering the law courts, I can come into the court and sit down and observe and probably give legal strategy or direction to the Muslim lawyer, but I can't argue or stand before the Sharia judge. Sister case of that case, of Yaya's case, is Omar Farouq. So, what happened was when Yaya was sentenced, the lockdown was just lifted in just like a few weeks after in Nigeria. Remember I told you he was sentenced on the 10th of August. And then, no Muslim lawyer had the effrontery to appeal. It's not as if we don't have smart Muslim lawyers or whatever, but everybody was afraid for their lives. I mean, your office could be burnt, you could be killed. Your wife is going to tell you, my friend, don't you dare go there. Remember, you have kids. That's the kind of system which operates in northern Nigeria, which our colleagues pass through. Then you have the Muslim ulamas and the Muslim council coming out and saying no Muslim lawyer must defend him. Deborah Yakubu was killed a few weeks ago. The people who killed her, first they were not charged for murder, they were charged for public disturbance. Guess how many lawyers turned up in courts to defend the two that were arrested? 32 lawyers led by a professor of law. That tells you the mindset of what's happening in northern Nigeria. 32 lawyers led by a professor of law, a full professor, not an adjunct professor, a full professor of law that sits on a professorial chair, led the defense for the people who slaughtered a fellow student. She was their classmate. What led to her murder was a remark she made on WhatsApp. They have a WhatsApp group in class. It's supposed to be for assignments and all that kind of stuff. And then you have the Islamic fundamentalists in northern Nigeria, in Sokoto State, always sending Islamic verses and all manners. And this lady said, this is supposed to be a classroom forum for our assignments and all, and someone just shut up there or whatever, and then verbal typing escalated, and she said something against the Prophet Muhammad. And then the next day, someone identified her. If you see, the videos are too gory to show, I didn't upload them, but you can find them on Twitter if they've not been taken down. So you could see how the harassment started. She was walking around, someone identified her, that's the girl, and they are walking after her, and they are taunting her. First they start to try to pull her dress, and she's walking and holding her dress. So why are you doing that? Then it escalates, someone throws a stone from behind, and hits her at the back of the head, and then more stones come up, and the girl is trying to flee. The security come, and they try to, save her. They are unarmed security, but the mob is so intimidating, the security just, melted away. One stone after the other, one stick after the other, this girl fell to the ground, and they started pelting her, shouting Allahu Akbar, and that was it. Next thing, someone had found petrol and poured on her. Someone struck the flame, and that was it. The girl was gone in minutes. That's how dangerous it is in northern Nigeria. So we decided to go into Kano to file the appeal because nobody else wanted to. That's for northern Nigeria. Interestingly, southern lawyers were the ones who were scrambling to go and defend them in northern Nigeria. The reasons are obvious. Southerners are more educated, they're more exposed. We are not crazy about whether you're Muslim or Christian. Some families, lots of families in southern Nigeria have Muslim on one side, Christian on one side. It's a hybrid family. It's not rare to find your husband being a Christian and wife being a Muslim, or vice versa. However, when the lawyers were trying to file the appeal, expectedly, the Sharia court would not cooperate. You need, when you're filing the appeal, you need the records of appeal to accompany your notice of appeal. You need the judgment. The judgment is written in Hausa language and is smattering of Arabic. Now, you're now taking the appeal before an English court, so to speak, a common law court, that's the High Court. And the English court does not speak Arabic or Hausa language. So the first hurdle that you're going to have to pass through is to get the Sharia court to release the judgment to you. Note that the judgments are public records, but the clerks are supposed to facilitate the processing because most of this are still done analog in Nigeria. It's not like here that probably you can just apply electronically and then the records come out. You need to go physically to the court. You need to demonstrate, that you have interest in the matter, and then, of course, facilitate the protection, the production of the records. The second one is that you need to get it translated by an official that is recognized by law, usually a court official who is still serving. So there was a media war. A couple of senior lawyers from the south of the country were trying to, file an appeal. The Sharia court was not cooperating with them. They had gone on TV, and because the hours were taken away, so there was a rolling news. Oh, he's going to be executed. An appeal has to be lodged. This and that, and then, we also had some lawyers, Muslim lawyers, who were Southerners, who spoke the Hausa language, who were able to speak to one or two controllers of prison, and they were able to write a letter to giving them access to visit Yaya in prison. What did we do different, and how were we able to file the appeal? Number one, discreetness. Cover our face, dress like a northerner, don't look too conspicuous, just don't make any noise. Every case is decided on its own merit. The strategy which you want to employ on every case is decided on its own merit. The reason why we did this is because initially, Yaya's case had become notorious. All over Nigeria, the international media was getting involved. The government started getting jittery. Remember, this is northern Nigeria, overwhelmingly Muslim. Even the governor knows that he is going to be in trouble if he doesn't handle this properly. So we went in quietly. I flew, that's Kano Airport, I think I was just arriving in Kano. Abuja to Kano is about 40 minutes. 2 flights a day only. So if you miss it, that's it. You have to wait till the next day. Remember, there's the date for the appeal is ticking away. So if you don't get on that plane, that's -1 day. I think we filed it like 6 or 7 days before the date elapses for the appeal. So we went in quietly. We filed the appeal on human rights ground and tried to exploit some loopholes in the law. Ordinarily, the appellant is supposed to sign the appeal. If the appellant is not able to sign, then his lawyer must sign. We lawyers were being prevented from accessing the appellant because the government wanted to kill it. So what do? You have to think outside the box. So we filed it, without being briefed just with the compulsion that this guy is not going to get killed. So, like I said, you have to think outside the box. Every other grammar you can be speaking in the law courts, just lodge the appeal first. So that's what, whilst everyone was trying, the Nigerian Bar Association president raised up a team, the vice president, the welfare officer, to go to Kano to make sure that they lodge an appeal on behalf of the bar. So there's a national bar in Nigeria, and then you have state bars. We have 36 states, so all 36 states have a bar, then the federal capital, Abuja, has like 3 or 4 bars as well. So our colleagues from the national body, senior officers, called the colleagues in Kano to say, hey, we're coming. You need to take us to the prison and this and that. Oh yeah, no problem. And guess what happened? They got to Kano and everybody had switched off their phones. So that was it. So the NBA went on news, oh, we're trying to get across to him. They went to the prisons. The prisoner says, where's the letter from the controller? They don't have the letter. Days are taken off. So I went to the registry of the appellate division of the Kano State High Court. Appeals from the Sharia court goes to the English court, which is the State High Court. And we have boots on ground from our law school. We are friendly allies. So number 2, identify your friends, your allies, or identify your enemies as well. So we felt out a few people who we thought would be sympathetic to the cause, and they accompanied us. They are Muslims, so it's not every Muslim that supports what the Sharia court or the Sharia jurisdiction are doing. And I was saying that yesterday, you need to identify your gatekeepers. Don't alienate anyone. Muslim, atheist, Christian, you don't know where your help is going to come from. And so if you paint everybody with the same brush, you're going to lose an helper. So we went in, the court registrars too were friendly to us. Of course, we had to facilitate. When I say facilitate, I don't want to use the word Westerners know as facilitation. So we facilitated and made sure they had money to buy Coca-Cola and stuff like that, and money for transport. And then we filed the appeal. Ordinarily, the courts are supposed to go and serve the Attorney General, the governor of the state. It was so dangerous. Court officials refused to go and serve. And said, no, I ain't going. Find a way of serving them yourself. So what did I do? I went to the DHL office and quickly sent it to them by courier. Ordinarily, you need the leave of court. When I say you need permission from the court to be able to serve by substituted service. But time was running out. You just need to do everything you can to make sure that the appeal is seen to have been lodged. So I went to DHL, sent a courier to the Attorney General's office, sent to the governor's office. Then I did something very, that swung everything in our favor and tied the hands of the government. I have a friend who, I'm also on his legal team. He's been charged for treason in Nigeria for challenging the president and everything. His treasonable felony case is still going on, but we got him out on bail. He runs an online publication known as Sahara Reporters. He used to live here in the US before returning to Nigeria to run for president. So he gave me one of his boys, the foot soldier in Kano. So, I'll go only 5 minutes. I don't know how you're going to compress this 2 years walk into 45 minutes. Anyway, I gave him the scoop, and he published it. And I said, I'm giving you 1 hour. If you don't put it on the news now, I'm going to send it to the other big media. So that was it. That's in prison. We sent it out. That's the first appeal. This was the appeal where the death sentence was quashed. That was early in the morning. You can see where the judges sit at the back. That was the order of release. But that was a leave given for the arguments because state customarily would always file last. If you go, sorry, if you previous ones before this.
questions, you can start raising your hand.
So that's the way you move around so that people don't know you. In some of these cases, do not try to be famous. It's going to be dangerous for you. Fame will come after. Fame comes after you've won. Don't try to be a superstar lawyer when you're handling some of these dangerous cases. Your face is all over the internet. You're going to be taken down just like that. So, that upload, you can see how I looked there. That was a very long flight, very tired. We arrived in Kano in the dead of the night. The next day was the appeal. I was literally sleepwalking to tell. So that was the next day in court with my colleagues. You can skip that. Those were the interview with the various world media. If we slow down a bit, I can talk you through one. So this is Omar Farouq's uncle, the minor that was sentenced to 10 years. We got that his sentence was quashed. And those are his relatives. So they're all Muslims. And so Sharia law is dealing with Muslims crazy. And initially they were amazed at the help coming from the south, coming from non-Muslims. There was an organization in Europe, I think it was the Auschwitz Memorial Foundation. They're Jewish, they're reaching out to try to help. So they were all just confused. Your perceived enemies have become your helper, you know. So that was at the court. That's one of my junior, because now the legal team, this was on Friday, and we're all waiting intensely. The appeal was done on Thursday, and the chief judge was supposed to sign the release papers the next day, and we couldn't find him. So we had to stay in Kano, which means we were spending more by the day. Our resources were being depleted. Every time we go to Kano, we spend nothing less than $4,000 or $5,000. So if you go back like 2 pictures or 3, yeah, so we're all waiting intensely in the court. That's the court's premises, the car park and everything. You can see how disturbed the uncle was looking. You can see the tension of everybody. Are they going to release him or not? Even though there's a court judgment, everyone was apprehensive. It's not often that you challenge the Sharia courts and you get these things quashed. Something of this big. Okay, so that's his sister. She was pregnant then. That's the brother-in-law. Poor northerners, not really educated, all confused. They didn't know what to do, where help was going to come from. So we were like this. That's the court order. You can say order to produce prisoner, because it was even dangerous for the young man to be released to us directly. So we needed to speak to them at the court, and the court made sure there was a production warrant, bring him to the court premises. Because ordinarily, once the sentence has passed and you're released, you're supposed to just go to prison and you go home. But if they released it to us at the prison, and we start driving off and anything happens, you know, who can tell? So the court had to make an order to produce the prisoner and bring him to the High Court. You can see that, you know, to be produced before the High Court. That's the High Court 1 is the court for the CJ. The Chief Justice always takes High Court 1. So that's how we got Omar Farouq out of prison. That's him. I took that picture. I was sitting in front, passing it, and just quickly took a photo on Twitter, and that was a picture that went all over the world. Yeah. All the news media just picked it up from there. Omar Farouq was free. There's still, I probably still have like 20 minutes to go to.
I can't imagine.
I haven't even gone to the meat of because you know there's a second part now, which we're at the appeal court. He was set free. Yaya was set free halfway, you know, because they quashed the death sentence, but they sent him back to the Sharia court to be retried. And we've challenged that. I would have loved to take you through the arguments. But there's no time, except you.
So we can take questions now because we have another session after this in about 10 minutes. So we have to wrap this one up. We're so sorry.
Can you just tell us what happened at the appeal court? What was the result?
Okay, so last last week, eventually, I'm going to skip through all the introductory parts of it. We filed last year, immediately on the Monday, because this sentence was done on a Thursday. On Monday morning, January 2021, 25th January 2021, we filed an appeal, a notice of appeal, and we never got a shot at the appeal until last week, Thursday. If it was not one motion came up or some adjournment, the state refused to respond for 1 year. So we served them in June. The state only filed a response on the 11th of May, a day before we were supposed to appear in court on the 12th of May. Then on the 12th of May, court didn't sit because we couldn't form a quorum. Three judges sit on appeal, and 2 were absent for health reasons. So the most fundamental part, which we argued, there were 2 arguments.
To wrap it up.
Okay, so the court has now reserved a date for the judgment, and they will let us know.
Good.
So we're challenging the Sharia law and saying that it's inconsistent with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I hope I've been able to bore you a little with these jargons. Thank you very much.